Hey again, another edition of Getting to Know Your Indiana Neighbor. I feel like I need a couple of introductions here because, first of all, Dewayne Shake needs no introduction to you Davis County folks, but to us Martin County folks, a little bit. Dewayne, of course, is the owner of Shake Broadcasting. He's the owner of WRZR, and he's made a major impact on every community that he serves, and that's why we do this. So the introduction for me is to Dwayne's friends out there in Daviess County and Martin and wherever else he serves. My name is Greg Bateman, and I work with Dwayne on WRZR and do a lot of the Lagodi sports. But in my spare time, I have a little YouTube channel, and it's called Getting to Know Your Indiana Neighbor, where I talk to people who have made an impact to the communities. And that's why we're talking to Dewayne Shake today. So, Dwayne, thanks a lot for joining us.
Hey, glad to do it, Greg. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Dwayne's not really glad to do it because he doesn't like the video.
I'm a radio
portion.
guy,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
we'll get to this.
But yeah, no, I'm glad you consented to this. I know it's not something you really want to do, but you're willing to do it for us, right?
It's funny, in my high school class, the kids all were about TV. They wanted to get right to TV, and it hurt my feelings. I said, radio's where it's at. Radio's where it's at. Nobody sees you at radio, so
yeah. So
plus the camera adds like 10 pounds.
Yeah, it does.
I'm really a $105 soaking wet.
Yeah, me too. So it does, but I've kind of gotten over that, and so here we're to talk to Dewayne today, and Dewayne, kind of the way this works is it's kind of, I don't know if you're old enough to remember the old show. I was something about everybody's lives. Now I forget about it, but anyway, we try to go through your life and allow people to know something. So those of you who really know Dewayne, you really think you know Dewayne, you're going to find something out today that you don't know about Dewayne. But we typically start from the very beginning. So you are a native of Washington, is that right?
Yes.
Born right here in Washington?
Yes.
Never lived anywhere else?
Never.
What about in college?
Nope. Vincent University,
Yeah?
so
Okay.
I was a commuter over there.
Just a little bit. And
Yep.
came back and called Washington home for good, right?
Yep.
Okay. Your parents are?
Ron and Mary Shake here in Washington. They are lifelong residents as well.
Mhm.
So family has set up roots here, and no interest to really go anywhere else. Like to call this area home.
And what about your parents? What do they do?
Mom and Dad are both retired now, but they still do some odd driving for. Mom drives Amish sometimes, and Dad drives for Senior Med Express.
Mhm.
So they do that to keep them busy.
Yeah, retired from?
Dad retired from a couple of different jobs, actually. Most recently from Jasper Chair in Jasper.
Okay. Yeah.
And Mom was a homemaker when we grew up, but she went on to be an aide at the Washington Community
Mhm. Schools,
where she retired. She did that for probably going on 30 years, I think. Everybody knows Mrs. Shake at
Yeah.
Washington Community Schools. She
Yeah.
was one of the best.
Yeah. So kind of what I do is I invade people's Facebook pages. So you're going to see some pictures today that Dwayne's put out there for the world to see. So I'm doing the same thing. So I saw a picture of your dad, and you had on there, was it Ron?
Mhm.
Elvis?
Yes.
Shake? So, okay, I can see where, it kind of looks like Elvis. Does he perform?
No,
No.
he doesn't perform, no. But a huge
Would he for a fee?
lifetime Elvis fan.
Yeah, okay.
He's always loved Elvis his whole life, and just got all kinds of Elvis commemorative things. We just got him for his birthday recently. We got him a record, Elvis Presley record, vinyl record for his collection. So he loves anything Elvis, and he still has the look. So
Still has the look. He does. What about siblings? What have you got?
I have a brother, Ron the second, and then I have a sister, Tiffany, and they both live in Washington as well. So that's it on the sibling side.
Okay. And so we'll get to your wife, Shelley. We'll get to Cannon. We'll talk about them as we go along. But now I want to get you grown up. All right. Let's talk about your childhood a little bit. Were you a rebellious kid? Were you somebody who kind of followed the rules, or what would people say about you? Maybe the teachers. What would they say about you?
That's probably something you'd have to ask Mom on that one.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I pretty much abided by the rules as far as everybody knows.
Mhm.
I was class
As far as
president.
everybody knows.
I was class president at Washington for
Okay.
all 4 years of high school.
Really?
So
All right.
longer lunch periods and after school parties. That's how you got elected.
Is it? Okay.
And suckers on election day. You passed out the
Yeah.
dum-dum suckers.
Yeah.
Did that for 4 years. So I was stayed active in the class. As far as sports goes, I helped the teams. I didn't play. I played baseball through Little League. Didn't play at the high school level, but always helped out the teams, traveling with them and helping in that capacity. So football and basketball.
Yeah.
Um, but if you really want to track my what I was doing and growing up, it was the Little League, which was Washington Little League at the time. It's now changed names to Chuck Harmon Little League. But this was when it was still in the West End, at the O&O property over there. It was a few blocks from my house. Of course, as I said, I played there, played on all-star teams. In the summer, kids lived at the ballpark. That was the thing to do. So spent a lot of time down there. And I have an older cousin, Brian, who's the same age as my brother. And for a summer job, he took on the groundskeeper at the Little League. He was in his teens, and I was, I think at that time, 11 years old. And Brian did all the work, got all the fields ready and everything. But one of the jobs was on the 12-year-old league. You had to announce the players when they come to bat. That was
Really?
the big field. You had to
Yeah.
announce.
Okay.
And that was the one aspect of the job that Brian did not want any part of. He didn't like being on that microphone. So one day I was up there with him, just waiting on my game to start. And I said, "Well, why don't you do this? I don't ever hear you announce." He said, "No, I don't want to do that." I said, "Well, I'll do it." So I just grabbed the microphone, and of course I knew all the players. They were in my age range. So I just started announcing them then.
As they came at bat.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But you didn't announce the game. You just.
Yeah, it wasn't the game. It wasn't play-by-play. It was just, now at bat, number 32. And I just did it. I didn't even think about it at the time. I just did it. I just thought, well, heck, I can do it. I was always kind of the personality. I get that from my mom. She's a talker. Everybody knows my mom's a talker, so I get that from her. But I was never shy, so I said, well, I'll do it. But that was my first experience with the microphone, believe it or not. I didn't know I had it in me. I didn't know that was what was going to basically be my life's calling the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But it was at 11 years old, and the Little League games that I first got my start in the broadcasting field.
Wow.
And it all took off from there, I guess.
At the Little League field.
So
All
Brian eventually went on to grab another job, a full-time job, and that position became open for groundskeeper, and I applied for it and got to do the whole thing. And I spent my high school years at the ballpark every night. I drug the fields, lined the fields. And we had 5 fields we had to maintain. And then you stuck around that night, you kept the book, ran the scoreboard, and you announced for the major league games.
And you enjoyed that.
So it got me a pretty good nest egg as a young child, because no jobs were paying what I was making. Granted, it took all of my free time, but it became a passion of mine, and that's why my heart is always and always will be with the Little League program, because it's where I got my start. So
Okay, all right. See, now some of you knew that, but some of you didn't.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Now, a couple pictures I saw on Facebook, Dwayne. You grew up in the Mullet area?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Proud of it.
Proud of it.
I mean, the senior pictures, they don't lie. And
Were you a Billy Ray Cyrus
I
guy?
was always ahead of my time.
Okay.
It just never caught up to me, unfortunately.
It'll come back. Unfortunately, that might not come back. Yeah.
The mullet itself has come back now, with Morgan Wallen, the country star, although he just cut his recently, but it did make a comeback recently, which I was glad to see. But yeah, mine's gone. I don't think.
Probably won't come back.
No, probably not.
Yeah. So you did those jobs, but so 11, 12 years old. But what did you think of as an 11, 12-year-old that you might want to do when you grew up? What was your aspiration?
That was funny. I mean, I didn't put any thought into it. And that's why I say you never know when like the light bulb goes off. Nobody knows. Even at high school, sometimes people don't know what they're going to do, what their calling is, or what their career is going to be. I just really enjoyed the announcing, the microphone down there for all those years. And I was approached I would always get compliments on how good I did, and I didn't think anything of it. It was just saying somebody's name, but
Mm-hmm.
people really appreciated what I was doing, and the players appreciated getting their names called out.
Yeah.
That's kind of a highlight for
Mm-hmm.
them. And then I was approached by good friends of mine. I'm still friends with Greg and Kim Thompson, who had a son playing Little League Baseball, and they came up to me. Kim did one day, and she said, "Have you ever thought about doing something in radio?" And I said, "Well, no, not in particular. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know what that would be like." She said, "Well, you really ought to think about it. You sound good on the microphone. I think you could do a good job in radio." And she then explained that she was good friends with Dave Crooks at the time, who was the owner of the station here. It was a different station at that time. He was part of a different company at that time. But she said that I ought to go see him, just see, get a feel, and see if he has any openings. And I think you ought to give this a shot.
And at what age at this point?
This would have been probably 15, because I got
Okay.
my first job at 15, so it was when
Mm-hmm.
I was 15. And again, at that point, I had no idea. In between the little league, I had saved up enough money to where I had purchased DJ equipment. So after my junior high years, when I started my freshman year in high school, I had purchased DJ equipment, and I went to the teachers at the school at that time, and I just wanted to do the school dances. I just thought it was always cool. The DJ there was
Mm-hmm.
always, the life of the party. So with my little league money, I blew it all on speakers and lights and a DJ setup. So it kind of accelerated from the little league job into weekend jobs, doing school dances, and then word got out that, hey, he's doing school dances. This guy's, and at the time I was young, so I didn't know what DJs really got. So I was working for pretty cheap. So then I was getting calls about weddings,
Yeah.
and
There's where the money is.
it blossomed from there. And the DJ business took off.
What was the name of the business?
Shakes, Rattle, and Roll.
Really?
Yeah,
I like it. I
Shakes,
like
Rattle, and
it.
Roll, Sound and Light Show.
I like it. Yeah.
So I was going out every weekend somewhere and traveling pretty good distances with the mobile DJ service, and it became a good source of income for me while I was still at home. So while most kids were getting jobs, wherever they could, part-time jobs here or there, restaurants. This was my money-making
Mm-hmm.
opportunity. So um, it turned into some pretty good money over the course of the years ahead. So I kind of moved into that aspect of the business first, the mobile DJ business, and I did that for about, I think, 15 to 20 years. I can't remember exactly how long, um, but there may be people watching that I DJ'd their weddings. I had a story where a lady came up to me and she looked so familiar, and I was at a wedding I was DJing, and I said, "Man, you look so familiar." And I was doing her wedding at the time. She said, "Well, you DJ'd my first wedding."
Well,
so, so,
repeat business is good.
so I was getting repeat business. I had done
So don't tell me
two of her
you started
weddings.
you started a market to divorcees. Is that right? People who got divorced.
Well, if the shoe fit.
If it worked the first time.
But the mobile DJ was a fun thing, and that was in my late teenage years into my 20s, and um, again I was able to progress pretty well with that business for several years. And then that leads back to the Thompsons saying, "Hey, you need to apply at the radio station. I think you do a great job." So I go to the radio station, and Dave Crooks, who I'll always remember this because I've not seen him do this since, he was outside in the back parking lot sweeping up cigarette butts.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing some of the landscape work there. And I had never met him before in my life.
And again, what age?
15.
15 years old. Okay.
Um, but I had explained to him, and I name dropped the Thompsons. I said, Greg and Kim Thompson had sent me to him, and I was wondering if he was looking for anybody. And at that time, there were definitely more opportunities in radio. I was fortunate to get in when I did, as far as part-time hours. There were a lot of part-time hours that were available, especially in the summer months. So he told me to come back and meet with his operations manager, who was the late Brad Dietz. And we'll get to more on Brad in just a little bit because I do want to talk about him. But I met with Brad, and Brad was willing to give me a shot. Sat down, talked to him, and he said, "Let's do this," you know. And the rest was history. So I became a part-time board op at the Bullet at that time, the country station here in town, and worked there. What ended up being 12 years, I believe. And that's where the radio career kind of started.
Yeah. So you were live on the air as a part-time.
Part-time, mainly just recording the weathers at that time and running ball games.
Yeah.
Eventually, as I got a little better and a little more experience under my wings, one of the things that Brad did immediately, and I remember this so well, my last day of high school, because I interned at the station too. We had on-the-job training through a high school program. So I interned at the radio station, and it was my last day of high school, and Brad had a contract already printed up and offered me my first full-time job on my last day of high school. You know, no college, just straight out of high school. But Brad saw something in me and didn't want to lose me, and gave me that opportunity. And I signed literally on my graduation day of high school my first full-time contract in radio, which was just amazing.
Yeah.
So I've been very, very fortunate. Very
Yeah,
fortunate.
that's funny. I worked in radio for years and never saw a contract.
Yeah.
You know, that's not typical. You know, signing the dotted line, you know, applications, things like that. But that's terrific. So at age, well, it would have been 18 probably
Yes.
at that point. And obviously you went on to college, but you continued to work.
They did work with me, yes. So through my college years, I went over to Vincent University, and I did the commute every day, and they worked around my schedule over there because they knew the importance of me getting the degree, and I did tell them I wanted to get the degree. So at that time, I was doing morning sports on the morning show with them. Brad was the morning show host, and truly one of the best. Always will be one of the best in my opinion. Um, but I would do the sports report each morning. My first class was at 8 a.m., so my last sports report would finish at about 20 till 8. And Brad always knew that, so we were running it pretty close. So as I wrapped up sports, Brad would love to call our good friend RC, who is a retired state police officer, Mr. Carruthers, as many know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he would wait patiently for me and follow me over to Vincent University. During that time, I did receive a few traffic infractions, but it was due to their help of announcing exactly where I was located.
So that was intentional.
That was
Okay.
that's what people remember my
Yeah.
early years of, and RC's claim to fame, I think, at that time was making sure he caught me
And actually gave you tickets?
every chance.
So you were speeding.
I was a little bit,
Yeah.
yes.
So that actually slowed you down.
It did indeed,
Yeah.
yes. He was doing his job and doing it really, really well.
Yeah.
And
But
for
at the
that,
time, you thought, "Why are you doing your job really well?" I mean, I'm a kid, right? Going to school.
high
In a hurry.
deductible high risk insurance.
Oh,
Kids
boy.
don't ever get on that.
Yeah. What'd mom
Don't
and
ever
dad
get
say?
on that. Well, I was paying my own, so
Yeah.
it was out of my pocket.
Okay. All right. What was your major at VU?
Broadcast
course.
communications,
Yeah.
radio,
VU
television.
had a really good broadcast.
Yes, and I'm still to this day friends with my college friends that I went to school with over
Mhm.
there. I owe them a lot. One of the instructors was Mark Lang, Mr. Lang.
Mhm.
Another one that I'll talk more about here in just a little bit. But Mark was I was working for him at the time as well with Dave. Mark and Dave were co-owners at the station at the time, and Mark taught so much. His knowledge of the business, and of course he was a lifer in it as well. I learned a lot from him, and will always be grateful for for the classes. But all of the instructors over there were great, and I always valued my time at VU. And as my son finished up his high school career and went on to college, one of the things I told him, I had, of course, owned the station at that time, so he knew he would have, some sort of job here. I think it was always important for me that he did get the college degree, so he went over and took the program as well. So I still encourage anybody interested in the field. VU is close to home, and they do have a great program, so I would highly recommend it.
So take me a little bit through your the progression of your radio jobs, if you will, and stop right before we get to now you own stations. So tell me a little bit about your professional career.
Well, it just was kind of all over the place, truthfully. Like I said, my start was just running games as a board operator. Board operators are people who are here in the studio, not at the actual game. They are the people that play the commercials for you.
Get them on the air and off the air.
Yes. So basically, you just had to be here,
Yeah.
and you had to turn up a knob. So it was good money, for not hard work during that time. It progressed into doing more on-air stuff. As I said, I was a sports reporter there for a while. Once I finished college, they gave me the midday show, which I was on middays for several years. At that time, it was called the Midday Shake Up.
Okay.
That's where the Shake Up first started. The
Did you
Midday
name it?
Shake Up. No, I think that was Brad, actually. Okay. I think Brad came up with that. So I really enjoyed the on-air aspect of radio, though. Middays are the midday audience is you're kind of their companion. They call it companion radio midday. Morning radio is information, morning drive time, weather, temperature, and news and information. Middays, you're kind of their companion, and then the afternoons are kind of wind down, drive home, ready for the next day type stuff. So my start was, if you're going to get a start, usually they'll start you in that midday shift to kind of, you don't necessarily get thrown right into a morning drive time or an afternoon drive time.
Catering to a lot of the employers, right?
Yes. So I'd had faithful listeners that would call every day, and you didn't know them, they didn't know you, but if it got to the point where if I didn't hear from those people, I was worried about them.
Okay.
That you do become their friends and they count on you. So I think the biggest thing about radio that I always enjoyed, as I said at the start of this, is nobody knows what you look like, the mysterious aspect of it.
Yeah.
Now, when you go to the grocery store or something and you talk or you say your first words, they immediately, the light bulb goes off. And, oh,
Yeah.
or they see you sign your name. Oh, but they don't know you until
Yeah.
Yeah. Now with social media, it's not so mysterious as it was back then. But I always like that aspect of it. The other part of it is you don't know what we're wearing. I mean, we could be in here in pajamas. We could be here sleeping on the floor in between songs. Nobody will ever know. So that's why I always liked radio. I think that's the biggest selling point of radio.
Sleeping on the floor in your pajamas.
Not that I've ever done that. Oh, maybe once or twice. But the point of radio, though, good radio, Brad had this sign in his office that always stuck with me. It was a just a basic. It had a note inside a picture frame, and it said, "It's what you do between the songs that counts."
Okay.
And that's always stuck with me. That was always Brad's motto about on-air radio. It's what you do between the songs that counts. If you lock that away and keep that in your mind, that's what drives radio today. And that's always what's going to be the thing that keeps it alive, in my opinion. Because you can get music anywhere. And as we've progressed through the years, you can get it more easily. It's more easily accessible out there. But the aspect you can't get is, the high school football game on Friday night, high school basketball game during the week, the local news every morning, which is becoming more and more important.
Interaction with your listeners.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the interaction. Some of the strangest things you say is what catches on with the listeners. Your goal especially I always told Cannon this, the goal in the morning drive is to say something that somebody will take to the office and they'll be at the water cooler or at the coffee pot and they'll share that little
Right.
story you said that morning. Then you've accomplished what you wanted to do for that day. So that's always your goal, but it's what you do between the songs that count.
Yeah.
And I guess this would be a good time because I've talked about Brad a lot. I talked about Mark a lot. Um, and they have since passed on. There's one other name I'm name dropping a lot, but Taylor Brown would be the third one I would throw in there. We still have his picture in our studio here today. Um, when I switched and came to WMW from the Bullet, um, Dave had moved to do this on his own, and the opportunity came. And I was nervous about it. You know, I'm a guy that drove the same car most of my life. I still write checks. I still mail checks.
So change is difficult.
I'm old fat. Change is very difficult for me. I've only had 3 jobs in my life. I think 4.
Probably never had to print out a resume.
So, no, I have not. I have not. So Dave had approached me about taking it on the morning show here, and you know, he was kind of pulling me that direction for a while. My biggest intimidation at the time was knowing who I was going to work with, and that was a man named Taylor Brown. Taylor Brown was an absolute legend. 60 years in broadcasting. He had been from Vegas. He worked in major networks all over the country. Armed Forces Radio. He had that voice, you know, that echoed, kind of like, I know you had Don Fisher on recently. He had the golden tones like Don Fisher, very deep,
he did, yeah.
stoic news voice, you know. But he was truly a legend in broadcasting. Here I am, still fairly young, still have hay in my hair, and Dave's asking me to go to work with this legend. So I was extremely nervous making that jump at that time. And I did finally agree to do it, but it just felt right. So here we are sitting in our chairs the first day, and Taylor Brown just looks at me and says, "We got this, kid." You know, he just gave me that look.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have, you know, something in common with your co-host. You know, um, you have to have a good working relationship because people hear that on the air. If you truly don't like the person you're talking to, or you know, you think, man, I'm above this. Taylor took me under his wing from day number 1 and taught me so much that I can't even begin to express how grateful I will always be to him. Um, so I guess in this segment, I'm just saying how fortunate I've been to work with some of the best in the industry who have all passed on: Brad Dietz, Mark Lang, and Taylor Brown. Um, I will never forget those guys and what they taught me along the way, how much they meant to me in this career. And I hope that I'm still making them proud doing what I'm doing today because they truly were something for me. They left their mark on me, and I'll never forget it.
So you think Taylor Brown would ever have thought that kid would own this station?
Well, right before he passed, Shelley and I we would visit him periodically. He was up in Indianapolis in a nursing home, and we always made it a point to try to get up at least 4 times a year, every quarter, just to chat with him. And we were able at the very end to let the cat out of the bag with him, and he was so excited for me.
Oh, that's great.
So he did get to know that right before he passed. That we hadn't purchased the station at the time, but it was in the works at that time.
So at what stage, Dewayne, did you and why did you start to even consider? Because obviously it's a major decision financially. You have a family, so it's got to be a family decision. Um, It's radio. You don't know what radio is going to be like over the next 20 years. You said basically that a moment ago. We still don't, but it sure seems to survive. But tell me the thought process around first getting that thought in your head about buying the station.
Well, it was always my dream. It's to own the local radio station. It was just a dream of mine, and Dave Crooks is another one that I do need to name drop and throw his name out there too. Dave was very influential and continues to be influential. We still talk on a regular basis. He owned the station at the time. It was right before COVID. It was 2020.
Timing couldn't have been better.
Yeah, it was a great timing. And I approached my wife then, and I said, "Honey, I think it's time."
Because he was ready to sell.
He had purchased stations up north,
Okay.
where he is now still located in Brazil, Indiana, and in the Terre Haute market.
Mm-hmm.
So he was spending his time up there, and I was basically helping to manage these stations down here. And my wife, who is everything in our operation. I mean, she's the bread and butter, the brains. She is in mortgage lending, so financially, the financial aspect of it, I could not have done this without her.
Mm-hmm.
I 100% could not have done this without her because of all the stuff that had to happen in the process. Um, but when I first put that bug in her ear, I was expecting a lot of pushback. Are you crazy? We're getting ready for a pandemic, and that was not the case.
Yeah.
She said she saw the determination in my eye, and she said, "All right, let's do it." So, and that was when I approached Dave, and Dave had made the process so smooth. Can't can't thank him enough.
So was it for sale at the time, or you approached Dave and
I
said, "What about this, Dave? What do
I
you think?"
approached him.
Oh,
I
okay.
approached him,
I bet you didn't know that.
and he was willing to talk at that time. At first, I think he thought I was crazy as well,
Yeah.
and kind of laughed it off. But when he saw I had the serious look in my eye, he said,
Mhm.
"All right."
And you knew what you were getting into.
Yes, I fully knew what I was getting into. Um, but like I said, it's just something about me, and I always give the glory to the good Lord because it it's funny how everything happens for a reason. I've always been a firm believer in that, but for those that don't believe in the power of prayer, it is there. It is so powerful, and a lot of praying happened, but it was just like we knew this was what we needed to do. The timing was right. Everything was in place. Um, and everything just happened. We had the support of family. Without the support of family, we could not have done this, and and it just happened. And you're right. You don't know, but I do know. Radio is strong. It continues to be strong. I don't feel it's going anywhere. When somebody always asks me that, I just come back and say, well, I would not have invested my entire life savings in it if I did not believe in it. Local radio, small rural America, is the source and will continue to be the source, in my opinion, um, to get people the information they need. So that's our goal. That's always our goal. I have to give a shout out to the staff here. They made the transition so smooth, and we have some of the best people. Lisa's our office manager. Pam works in sales. Alan does our afternoon show and kind of our operations manager. Um, and then we have good sports guys like you. Our sports teams are some of the best in the business. I can't be thankful enough to those guys. And then my son has taken on the duties as news director and doing a tremendous job. That was an interesting leap of faith for both of us because, and my wife and I had a good talk about this, and we said, well, this could go one of two ways. This could work, or we could fall flat on our face with this. Because my son would be the first to tell you, and this is dads and sons, I think, everywhere. We can clash from time to time. That's just the nature of the relationship.
That's the way it is.
So he likes to play point counterpoint with me a lot, which I think the listeners kind of feed off of that, and that's the feedback he gets. Keep giving your dad a hard time. That's what he gets.
Mhm.
So he will continue to do that, but he's made me so proud of what he's doing in the newsroom and what he's become on the air. I've had people, he's got more of a fan base than I do. He should really be the one doing this. He's grown a huge fan base, and uh, everywhere we go now, it's where's Cannon?
Yeah. So he's grown up in radio as
He
well,
has.
really.
He has.
If not actually performing, I mean, it's been your business probably ever since he was born.
Well, and on one of my Facebook pictures, I have him sitting in this chair behind the microphone with the headphones on when he was just a young lad. So he's been in the radio studio his whole life. Um, and it's like I told him, you can't, in this business, you can't really just go and pull somebody off the street
Right.
to do this. And you know, too, you have to have kind of the gift of the gab. You know, you have to be able to talk, be personable, and he's developed that along the way. It's very different than what he is on a day-to-day basis because he's more of a quiet person, really. But when he gets on the microphone, he just lets her rip and does a tremendous job.
So if I did ask Cannon, because I could ask you what the challenges are with working with your son, but I don't want to do that. But if you're in Cannon's head right now, what's the challenge of? He sits in this chair, probably does the news, right?
Yes.
You sit in that chair, so you're with each other almost 24/7. So what's the challenge that he would say of working with his father as the boss?
I don't know that he has too many challenges.
I'm
Is that
telling
the
you,
right answer?
he's not going to say he's challenge free. Well, we'll find out.
No, I think that you know, I'd like his biggest challenge sometimes is pronunciation. Some of the words.
I mean, with his father, though, working with his father. You know, everybody has on-air challenge. We all can be better, but in working with his dad, who's his boss, you know, right next to him for 3 to 4 hours a day.
You know, one thing I would say, I feel it's brought us closer. I think he would say that too. We talk every morning now. He is on his own. He's going to be 21 here in a couple months. So
to be an old guy.
He's on his own now, but we get that chance to catch up every morning that we wouldn't if we didn't have this job.
Okay. So he's not at home with you. He's
on his own.
Okay, very good.
It is a early morning gig.
Yeah.
So it was a concern, but Cannon is actually a morning person.
How early?
He gets here before me, so he's usually in here by 4:15 or 4:30.
Yeah.
And I'll roll in about 4:45 or so. So he
Slacker.
gets here before me. Yeah. And he gets to watch the sunrise every morning. You may see he loves taking pictures of the sunrise. I said, "Look how you've missed this all these years," you know. Because to me, the morning is the best time of the day. You can get so much accomplished before everybody gets in. You know, it's just me and him in here, and Lisa comes in a little later. But it seems like that's when we get the most done in the morning. So
well, let's talk about Shelley a little bit, your wife. You said she is not a native Washingtonian, I guess. Where is she from?
She's from Winslow. I had to go out of county to find someone that
couldn't find anybody in the county. Huh?
Southern Pike County, Winslow, Indiana. The pride of Winslow, Indiana. She's everything. She really is. She's a wonderful person. She doesn't meet a stranger, and she's so smart on just about everything. There's nothing she can't do. And it was funny. I was not looking at the time. A friend had actually introduced me to her and kind of set us up. And at that time, I just said, "Well, yeah, I'll go," you know. But I wasn't looking for anything at that time. And something immediately when I met her just sparked. She's got a great family. Love my in-laws. I'm blessed with some of the best in-laws. But she inherited two boys that were unruly and crazy, and because Cannon at the time was only like 2 years old when I first met her, maybe a little bit older, but she took Cannon in as her own and helped to raise him. And as I said, she truly made this dream happen, because without her in place, there's no way we would be sitting in this building as owners. She did all the behind the scenes stuff, the dotting of the I's and crossing of the T's. So when I say she's the brains of the operation, and anybody who I always introduce her as the brains of the operation, she truly is. She's the force behind Shake Broadcasting as we know it, and we wouldn't be where we're at without her for sure.
So you said nothing off topic. So I'd like to ask people delve in a little bit. Was the proposal anything romantic?
No,
No, not at all. Usually
no,
it's not, but every now and then you run
no,
into one
not
of
at
those gems.
all.
Okay.
No, it was very lackluster, and she lets me know about that a lot.
Lackluster. Can you explain a little bit what?
I gave her a ring and said, "Here, put this on your left hand."
Didn't even give her a chance to say no. Didn't even give her a
I'm
chance
not
to
a
say no.
Casanova. Most
Yeah.
radio guys are
Yeah.
not.
If you want it, great. If not, let me know. You can always take it back. Yeah. Yeah.
She lets me know about that quite often. Thanks for bringing that
Oh,
up, by
no
the way.
problem. Hey, listen.
So
She was going to again sooner or
she will
later.
appreciate
Yeah.
that. Yes.
Okay.
But no, it just kind of fell into place. It was over Christmas. It was a
Yeah.
Christmas gift for her.
Oh,
But
there you go. That's
she said, "What am I
romantic.
supposed to do with this?" I said, "Well, put it on your left hand, I
Yeah.
guess."
See if it fits. Yeah. What's
That
this
was
mean?
that was it.
Yeah. Okay.
That was it.
It worked. It
Thank
worked.
goodness she said yes.
It worked as well as
But
any.
you
Yeah.
you don't do these people that do like
Public proposals.
yes stadiums, get on the jumbotron.
Yeah.
Why do they say no?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. But you know,
This is
yours
in our living room at home. Where
Yeah, but
we
yours
were
would be this. So be on the jumbotron. You're reaching in your pocket. You're just putting it on her finger, and then the game goes on. That's the proposal, right?
something like
Yeah.
that, maybe. Yes.
Do you guys travel a lot? I don't know when you have time.
We don't.
No?
We don't. We pretty much we might get away twice a year.
Yeah.
But this place keeps us pretty busy now. Down the stretch. Ultimately, the goal is for maybe Canada to take it over someday, so we
Yeah.
can
Get
do
out
a
to
little more
Kansas or
traveling.
Nebraska or somewhere, right? Just get
Exactly.
somewhere, yeah.
But we like to go south to Florida
Yeah.
occasionally, and we have traveled. We had a nice trip to Michigan, really nice area up in Michigan. So
I love Michigan.
we have goals of doing more traveling someday, but this is a round the clock job, as you know. Weekends, overnights. You never know when the station's going to go off the air, so you always got to be on standby.
When there's bad weather, you're always, oh boy,
Yes,
here we go.
for
3
sure.
o'clock in the morning, it's going to happen. Well,
For sure.
You're up at 3 o'clock in the morning. So when you bought the station from Dave Crooks, was the General already a part of?
Yes.
So now you own 2 stations.
Right.
Okay. I've got to ask you, and I know kind of in my own head, but just for the listeners. So the General is 95.9, 101.3, and 1580. Why three different frequencies?
Well, the FCC a while back made a ruling where if you had an AM signal, the AM is the first station that was on the air here, AM 1580. Actually, I take that back. Actually, we were, I think, maybe FM 107.9 was on the air first, and they added the AM. I'm sorry, I'm not 100% for sure on that, but the AM was on the air 1580. AM listenership, in early radio was it. That's where people listened. As we progress through the years now, you tell somebody about AM radio, and they're like, "What are you talking about? What's that?
Now you
Is
hear
that morning radio?"
Now you hear ads to try to keep AM radio.
Right.
You know what? I worked at AM 1580, WAMW, and then I think it was with the FM was 106.5.
Yes.
Right? Maybe back in the 70s.
Long time ago. Yes, it was.
Wasn't that long ago?
That's how. That's how it got started. So anyway, as the AM and FM radio FM radio became more prevalent, the FCC a few years back made a ruling where you could take your AM signal and put it on a what they call a translator. It's a small, lower wattage FM signal. So this is, again, Dave still did this back when he owned the station. He immediately took off with this, and the first signal we put on was 95.9, which the tower was here in Washington, so it was kind of Washington based, and we got our first translator then to put it on the air on 95.9. Well, we started to do Bar Eve Sports on the General, which we still do today, and we were finding some of the Bar Eve fans in the deeper areas in Alfredsville and Davies County and that portion of the area, Bar Township. They were having a tough time getting the actual 95.9 signal. So Dave was able to nab another translator, and through clearance with the FCC, and there's a lot of paperwork you have to do, He was able to put the third signal on the air, which is 101.3. That one was placed closer to the Montgomery area, so the Barry fans could hear their games loud and clear. Now, since that time, we've actually moved the 101.3 to our new tower, which is the Razor Tower. So, of the three signals, you'll find the 101.3 does travel a pretty good distance further than any of the three signals, just thanks to its location on the new tower now. So, but it's all that does confuse a lot of people when they hear the three frequencies. They think, well, it's three different stations. It's one station on any of the three spots on the dial. You're going to hear the same programming. It's still 1580 AM. It's just also broadcast on the two FM spots on the dial. And I think that does confuse a lot of people.
So another opportunity for Shelley to call you crazy. WRZR comes up for sale. So you've worked through COVID. You're just an owner for a couple of years. But WRZR, our station, comes up for sale. And tell me about that. Again, what light bulb went into your head that said, we need to do that?
Well, that one I give credit to our engineer, Dave Hurdle. We just were talking about this recently. He was just in town not too long ago. He kind of put the bug in my ear early on. He thought it might be a good addition. When I purchased, and Dave laughs at me now, when I purchased WMW from Dave, I said, this is it. This is all I'm doing. I don't intend to. Dave owns several stations, and Mark Lang, of course, owns several stations all around. I did not purchase this station with the intent to be a
mogul.
Yeah, I did not intend to do that at all. And still that is the case. I promise that is the case, Shelley, if you're watching. But
she won't watch.
It just fell into place. Lagodi is, of course, the next town over, not far from us. We met a lot in broadcasting a lot of the same games. So it was a natural fit. And again, I would say thanks to Larry Hembry. Larry was the other owner that was involved, or the owner of WRZR, but the other owner that I worked with in purchasing the station. And Larry made the transition very smooth. Bill Potter was the operations manager. Bill was amazing as well. And the opportunity came along. We went back and forth a little bit, but found exactly the good point for everyone. And Larry's big thing was he did not want to lose Lagodi Sports. I mean, he's Lagodi, very strong Lagodi, and I promised him, and I still hold true to this promise. We're not changing anything. It is still the Lagodi hometown station, as you know, because you do them. We do every Lagodi Lions sporting game we can. We also work in Shoals games as much as we can. Goes back to what I said earlier. It's what you do between the songs that counts. So you can find music everywhere, but you can't find the Lions everywhere, or the Shoals Jug Rocks everywhere.
Yeah.
But you should be able to tune in to 94.5 and hear them. So the transition was very, very smooth, and again, I owe that to all that were involved with that, and thanks to engineer Dave Hurdle, who kind of got the ball rolling in my head with the idea of purchasing that one.
So it's been a year. No regrets?
No regrets. No. The Lagodi community has been amazing. Greg, you guys have been amazing. I first reached out to you before anything happened, because the number one thing is I didn't want to lose anybody. And everybody knows Alan Williams. Who doesn't know Al, right?
Who doesn't know Al?
Who doesn't know Al? Al's been with WRZR from its inception when it went on the air.
Alan is Mr. WRZR, Alan Williams.
Yeah. It's his baby, and he's very passionate about it, and he stayed on with us, and he has been a godsend for our company because of his knowledge of radio, and
very talented.
And he's just kind of the go-to guy for anything. He can fill in for sports. He knows a little of the engineering stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, he'll figure it out.
Yes.
It may not be the conventional way, but Al, you'll get it done.
His production is amazing, and
I think he's got the best voice in the area. I really
agree.
do, and
I agree.
He has for years. I'm not sure he's gotten the recognition, but I'm glad that he came aboard as well.
Yes, his on-air ability is. He does 2 shows for us. He's on the Razor from 11 to 1 weekday afternoons, and then he's on Memories 107.9 from 4 to 6. So we keep Al busy. We threw him right in the fire, and he's done a fantastic job.
Yeah.
So. And without him, we wouldn't be where we're at either. He's really helped with the transition as well.
Yeah, believe me, it's best to keep Al busy. Yeah, it's a good thing. And Alan's going to be joining me back on the basketball broadcast with Coach Wagner moving to the bench. So looking forward to that.
He is too. He's very excited about that. I know.
Yeah.
So you guys will do a great job. Like I said, uh, it's not as bad. It makes my job so much easier when you have good people like we do, and good broadcasters. I mean, you guys are just top notch. You really are, and everybody does a tremendous job.
And it helps to know we're not going anywhere. Where would we go, right? I mean, so it helps you as an employer.
Most definitely.
But I remember, and I've told this story before. Alan and I really were the only staffers for Larry on WRZR, and that was sports and Alan's on-air work and production. And once we found out that it was going to be sold, I mean, we had lots of conversations about, okay, Alan, we realize there may not be Lagodi Lions on WRZR or on any radio, right? So we kind of thought in the background, what can we do? And then once we found out that Dewayne Shake and Shake Broadcasting was going to take over, we knew we were going to be fine. It was like a cloud being lifted over, because we knew how much you feel like sports is at the core of the communities and how much you like to do for the communities. So I wanted to get into that as well, Dewayne, maybe even as a final topic. But I think that the reason we're so appreciative that we're a part of the Shake Broadcasting family is that I don't know of anybody who works harder and longer hours than Dewayne, but most of it isn't right here in the studios. It's out getting to know people. You guys know this in Davids County. It's getting to know the people. It's relationship radio. And it sounds like, just getting to know you better today, that you were always a part of the community. Even when you were the groundskeeper in Little League, and you developed those relationships, and that's certainly paid off, because it's radio. A lot of it, better than I, is relationships, and you've been able to build those.
It really is. It's vital. You've got to be out there. And one of the first things I said to you was, we developed a In the Know program that Greg does on Sunday mornings. Just a public affairs program of any topic relating to the Martin County community. And Greg took that and just ran with it and does a fantastic job. You can hear it Sundays at 8:30. But you took exactly what I had in mind and put it together. And your topics are great. They're spot on. They're all community minded. And that's what it's all about, getting the news, the information out there, being at events. Lagodi Summerfest is one of our big events we love being a part of there, and we want to do even more for the Lagodi community as well, and we will continue to grow. It's been one full year, as you said. September actually marked the 1 year anniversary, which blows my mind. That year went fast. Mm-hmm. But Lagodi sports is not going anywhere. If more, we will do even more in the community, because that is our mission, our goal. And as for being a part of things, yes, I was the Visitors Board president for 8 years or 10 years here in Davies County, the YMCA Board of Directors, Little League Board, Montgomery Roots and Club, and the Turkey Trot Chairman. I was a United Way board member in the past, and continued to work with United Way. So any of the civic groups and organizations, it's just vital. And the more you're seen in the community, the more the community embraces you. And we can't say thanks enough, because it's the businesses in the community that allow us to continue to do what we do every day. I say I've successfully avoided work for over 30 years now, and I love every minute of it. Even though it does seem that I put a lot of hours into it, it's not work if you enjoy it. And I truly do enjoy it. It's a blessing to be able to do this every day, and to now own it, which was my lifetime dream. It still blows me away sometimes, and I still can't put my arms around how this all came together, but I will always be grateful to everybody who made it happen.
So can you look in the camera and tell Shelley directly that this is it, I'm not buying any more? Or do you say, never say never?
Exactly.
You never know what's around the corner, right? You never know what opportunity grabs you.
What he said.
He can't do it, Shelley. He just can't do it.
Yes, I can. Yes, I think I can. I think I
No, no,
can.
you're too young. There'll be something come along,
I'm getting
and you'll
older
get it.
every day. I
Yeah,
promise you. I'm
yeah.
finding that out more and more every day.
Well, it's your open forum now, Dwayne. What did we not talk about that maybe you wanted to or want to get out there? I mean, we're just trying to get to know you a little bit better. So
Well, I
anything at
appreciate
all?
it. I appreciate the opportunity. This is something that I've never done before, so it kind of made me think back a little bit. I've never
Hmm.
actually reminisced and thought back to the early days until you brought it out of me on this program today. And I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Um, it's just an honor to do what we do, and thank you again to everybody who's a part of it. Thank you to the staff here. The Shake Broadcasting team is second to none. If you see these guys, they're just top notch. I couldn't do anything without them. Thank you to the family, my wife Shelly, my parents, Cannon. It is truly a family business. It is a small operation. Our staff is limited to 4 or 5 part full timers, I guess, and then the rest are part time contract workers, sports broadcasters. So we are a small operation. It's impossible to get everywhere, but I just encourage people to reach out if there's anything we can ever do. First and foremost, we want to be a part of the communities we serve, and we'll continue to do that to the best of our ability.
Yeah. And so in the last year, as part of the Shake Broadcasting team across the stations, I've done well Lagodi basketball forever, but I've done a Bar Reeve basketball game. Never thought I'd do that. I've done a Bar Reeve volleyball game. And I even got to have the opportunity to do a hatchet football game with Mark Myers. That
And
was
did a
fun.
great job
Well,
too, I
no, no,
might
I
add.
just kind of filled in, but enjoyed that. Hadn't done that in almost 40 years, but that was a lot of fun. So we're looking for more opportunity. Oh, and I also got to race a turkey.
Yes, we can't forget
Yeah,
that,
that
Greg.
did not end up so well.
But
Started well, didn't
but
end up so
you
well.
know, it's
But
something
rookies
you can
can't,
say.
you couldn't really have expected me to win. I know
Well, he finished a solid what, third?
third out of three, yeah, but it was solid. It was very solid. But Dwayne, I thank you for the opportunity,
Thank you
and
so
I appreciate
much.
you coming on here. And I hope
Thank you so much.
that people got to know Dwayne a little bit better, and those in Martin County and who tune into our Getting to Know Your Indiana Neighbor got to know a lot more of Dwayne, because you're going to see a lot more of Dwayne for sure. And we thank you for watching this edition of Getting to Know Your Indiana Neighbor with Dwayne Shake.